So then that sounds like it kind of piggybacks off of what brings you pure joy just in life overall.
Yeah, definitely. Like how I kind of stated, what brings me the most amount of joy and kind of helps me just kind of do the day to day is definitely video games and other media. I just feel like it's something that has been kind of a staple in my life. Because it sometimes as a kid, it's very difficult to kind of go out and make friends, and like I always had that difficult time. And so always having something to look forward to and something to bring joy after, especially if you have like a rough day, coming back and just kind of playing. And if you have a boss that you've been kind of trying your best to kind of beat and you can and you finally beat it that day, it gives that sense of like fulfillment and like acknowledgement also, because I sometimes like you kind of crave that acknouledgement and parents won't give you that, but games do. So like it just kind of it brings me so much joy. And also they help me through the toughest parts of my life. It's funny, like it's funny to think that something that it's not like a real life thing, it's like a virtual thing that you're playing, can bring so much joy and mean so much to one person. And that's what video games have been for me. I didn't have the opportunity to get so many like knickknacks and things as a child, because it was kind of rough with my dad being the only one that would work. And now that when I had my job, I was able to buy all my stuff, and so I just have like a ton of knickknacks here. I have my master sword with like a pedestal. I have a poster and stuff like that. I have so many things, and I like, even though I moved in here not too long ago, I have my corner filled with like figures, Spider-Man figures that I bought. I love it. Everything, like it means so much to me, and kind of like having the opportunity to appreciate them more. Like as an adult, I feel like it filled the hole that I didn't have as a child even more now. You know.
When I look back on my life and I'm like, all right, where is the joy? Where is the moments? Because I even looked up joy just to be like, all right, what am I looking for? What's this about?
This question I'm answering?
Yeah, it's the emotion of great delight or happiness caused by something exceptionally good or satisfying. And to me, that feels like the moments that I look back and I'm like, that great delight from something exceptionally good or satisfying are the moments where I am being shown something, or I am experiencing something together with another person, or I am ushering somebody into a new experience.
I don't know. Where do you think you find those moments of like self throughout the day?
Yeah, it's hard. I think it's helpful in the morning when I could wake up on my own. I think, when Nora in the morning, she's up bright-eyed, 6 a.m. every morning, and she's right here waking me up. But if I wake up on my own, it's like a totally different morning. If I wake up on my own, I take my deep breaths, and I have a chance just to okay, it's going to be a good day, Thank God for 3 things in my life, and then I can get up and I feel centered, I feel good. Whereas if I have, Nora saying, Mom, Mama, I want to, what can I play or whatever, it starts the day off not the way that it's fine, not every day can be like this wonderful, soothing morning, but that makes a big difference just to have that moment to myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But throughout the day, again, the breathing, and I really enjoy after the kids go to sleep where I'm able to look at Darren and we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Or maybe watch some TV. I'm a big news junkie, so I'm always reading the news. So I try to do that, but it's really hard being a mom and being home and not having a lot of time to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that my situation now, I can look back on different, times in my life, my career as an educator or different relationships I've had with family or friends. And I can look back on that now and say, wow, I was really like all consumed with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't taking care of myself.
Oh, definitely.
I think it's important, especially now, because this is like the most consumed I've ever been by a job, you know, that I do take care of myself because it's really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back when I was teaching, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't go to the gym after work. I would go home and grade papers. Or, you know, having a relationship that I was dealing with that wasn't healthy, that I was like putting everything into and not taking care of my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that I'm like, it's really hard what I'm doing now to try to like get this balance and like trying to like be healthy,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to get the most that I can out of the relationship I have with my family.
I think that is one thing I have noticed. I would say that the mine and Kino's relationship is hands down the healthiest one I've ever been in, even so far as my sense of self. That's a thing I often lose in relationships, or have in the past. And I think ours is very strong because we do give each other the moment to have that sense of self. It's very clear that, like, you know, I want to spend a lot of time with her. But I do enjoy when I find a moment to go on a walk alone, or, you know, when she's like, do you want to go to the store with me? We have some time. And I'm like, you know what? No, I would like to hang out here and have it be silent. I used to listen to a lot of music or have a TV show on all the time, and I think oftentimes I forget to turn those things on now because there's so much, you know, there's so much sound already in my brain that, like, you know, someone will turn on music and it'll literally like take me out of my head, and I'll be like, oh shoot, okay, let me do these two things at once. Let me enjoy this music and also like do the same thing I was doing. But yes, I think it's nice being in a relationship that allows you to keep that sense of self. That doesn't, it isn't a consuming relationship, because not either the other person is aware or, you know, has been in the same place, or is just like has a healthy concept on that, whatever it may be, is like incredible. And it allows them to have a sense of self too. If you take a moment to focus on your sense of self, or, you know, yourself, hey, I'm going to take a little bit to myself, it, you know, it can remind someone like Darren, who spends 24/7 working, and to take just that 15 minutes that you're taking for yourself to maybe also take for himself too. Take a little break.
I enjoy like when we in our house, we talk about like cold beer o'clock, right?
I should have opened one in retrospect. I might actually go do that. I have my fridge.
We
over
cracked
there.
our last two last night. Definitely crack one though. Definitely crack one though. When we talk about cold beer o'clock in our house, you know, we're talking about cracking open like a High Life. We're talking about cracking open a PBR, because it's a quick drinking beer. It tastes fine enough. It tastes good enough. I've grown to love them, and you know, you can drink a few of them real quick, and it's cold and it's nice. And then you get that feeling. You get that like nice, you know, buzz or whatever. In the opportunities where I get to taste these craft beers, we'll also get another one. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're like really flavorful, and whenever they talk about their flavor, they're really good. But I drink one, and the experience and the taste is so different that, like, you know, when I was growing up, we would say like, we don't like, you know, people like, I don't like beer because they don't like the party beers. They didn't like Bud Light, and that is fine. No one really likes, like, no one loves Bud Light. People do, but you know,
can't drink all day if you don't drink Bud Light.
Sure, exactly. It's a day drinking beer. Exactly.
If I'm gonna start at 8 a.m., I'm not drinking.
No. You can't drink craft beer all day.
Can't
Certainly
do it all day.
Not.
You'll die.
Yeah. It's such a different experience. Drinking these beers. Well, I'm also now curious. What beer did you grab to drink this evening?
So it is from a brewery in Buffalo Grove called Liquid Love. It is a pina colada fruited sour ale with pineapple, coconut, and cherries.
Yes.
It's very good.
Yes.
It's called Bitchfront Madness.
Bitchfront Madness. I'm in love. I love it. I think that it only makes sense that I grab a craft beer. I mean, it's
It's
like
okay.
the most.
I'm not
Okay,
gonna
cool.
stop you.
All right. I think. All right. Give me like a 5-minute break. We have a spot right next door to my house that is incredible, with beer. So I will be back in.
I can.
for-
Oh, nice. You got something already?
Oh yeah. Super close.
There you go. What did you get?
So the brand I was talking about is Pipeworks.
I like Pipeworks.
Yes, I'm a big fan. I got it's called Friend with Two Boats. It is a passion fruit, orange juice, and coconut ale.
That actually sounds really good. I'm gonna have to see if I can find it by us.
Something tasty. Pipeworks blows me away. Every time I taste it, I'm just like, the flavor is stellar. What is your favorite kind of beer?
Like favorite brewery or like style?
Style of beer.
I am a huge fan of the pastry stout category specifically.
Okay.
My teeth do not like them because they're absolutely loaded with sugar. But like, think of it like a dessert, except it's beer.
I want to say I've had a couple.
So for example, we brought one yesterday that had maple syrup, coffee, cacao nibs, right? Or like some of them might have cinnamon and things that you'd put in a dessert, and they're usually themed. So it might be like a cinnamon roll stout, or like cookies and cream ice cream bar, or berry pie stout that may have like raspberries and blueberries. Oh, the one we brought yesterday had blueberry, coffee, and maple syrup.
Ooh.
It was quite good.
Like the
like
topping of
blueberry
a
pancakes.
pancake. Exactly. That sounds so
Yeah.
good.
So I am very much, my teeth and my dentist absolutely hate that I drink those, but that is very much like my favorite style of beers. I love the barrel-aged adjuncted stouts. That would be my top. But really, like, I'm not picky. Like, the only real beer I don't like to drink is I'm not a fan of like the smoked beers, the Rausch beers, where they like almost like a peat mossy scotch where you can taste the smokiness.
Interesting. I almost
I
grabbed.
do not like that style
I
at all.
almost grabbed. It was a smoked stout. And it looked like it was aiming to be like a sweet smoked stout, which sounds like it bridges the two things you like and hate in one beer.
Yeah, I can't, for whatever reason. Like I drink like scotch and bourbon as well. And I cannot drink the Islay scotches because I literally feel like I'm drinking an ashtray.
Man,
I prefer the bourbony scotches like the Highland and the Speysides that are a little bit more neutral, and they taste much more like bourbon.
See, when I'm
for whatever reason, it's the smoky flavor, like that particular way that they make it literally tastes like I'm drinking an ashtray, and it's gross. Like it's not good for my taste buds.
when I go out and I'm like looking for an experience with drinking, which does, like, especially living in the city of Chicago, massive city, it's so easy to find an experience with whatever you're looking for. And so when I do go out for a drinking experience, I look for those like I'm licking the bottom of a burned boat scotch, you know what I mean? Like salty and like so smoky that I feel like I'm smoking at the moment.
Acting was always something that I enjoyed, but it was never really something that I pushed for. I think there were a few points where, like with middle school, for example, I did James and the Giant Peach, and I got to play James, and it was amazing. It was like the first thing I tried out for, and then I didn't get. I think I took that as like, wow, I'm already here, and then tried out for like further performances. Didn't quite reach that quote unquote stardom of being like major players in these middle school productions.
I wasn't James.
Yeah, I wasn't James all 3 times. What
they didn't let me be the Peach, and no matter how much I asked.
Yeah. So like that was an element of it was a little bit discouraging in terms of wanting to pursue this, but it was also just like I didn't put any, real effort and training in between shows to get better. So like, yeah, why would I get to be major parts? And also like they would depend on the production. Like somebody else was going to be this and do a better job, and I didn't really understand that yet. So I think through middle school and high school it was a bit of like and then the beginning of college, I'll let you know, I started as a history major my first year, just because I liked history through middle school and high school. And then I switched from history the very next semester to business, because I was like,
business too.
It doesn't matter. Right. It was like, let's not worry about specifics here. Let's just do the general degree that'll get me the most job offers when I get out of college, because like whatever, it's, college will be fun, but like get a degree that people will look at and be like, yes, hire that person maybe.
Compared to a theater degree, my mom says is not helpful.
Yeah, right. And then I failed out. So that was obviously not the right path. But like failing out was a bit of a blessing, because like I get that like a lot of things have been very nice for me in terms of growing up and learning. Like I got to make these mistakes because of my family, and I'm really appreciative of them. After failing out, it was like, okay, let's figure this out. And I got to fly to Spain and do this pilgrimage called the Camino de Santiago, which was a 500-mile walk across like the entirety of Spain, from the French-Spanish border all the way to like the northwestern border of that, where I believe it's St. Paul's resting place. It's one of the saints. But
so you walked 500 miles?
Yeah, and I would walk 500 more.
I would walk 500 more, but not another one.
Yeah. I would fall down at someone's door for sure. But yeah, it was a really nice, just, you're walking like 20 plus kilometers a day. I did mine in like 50 days. And you get to just think. You get to, so for some people this would be horrible, but for me it was just really nice, kind of like, I have a thing that I'm going to get done, which was walking the set distance from hostel to hostel, or albergue as they called them for this trip. And during the course of each day, there was like, you could focus on what you're doing, but eventually it's like, okay, well, it's just walking. Some of this is just, it's a flat road. What are you going to do? And so you get to think. Like, and for what kept me going for all of that wasn't, thinking about like, what desk job am I going to get in the future? Like, what is going to make me a lot of money? What is going to get me, through my older years and help me, either start a family or have a really good retirement or anything like that. It was all entertainment. It was all arts. It was music with my friend back home. He's a guitarist and I play drums. We have made like very small little like songs together, but they were always fun. They were always a joy to make. And then there was acting. There was the desire to create characters from nothing, really. And then just you give them life by giving them a voice. They have some kind of accent. They have some kind of drive. They have, something from their foundations that makes them who they are. And if it's your character, you get to do whatever you want with that. And then after the Camino, I got to go home and go to community college for a semester, try to get good grades there, work at the same time. People in like the McDonald's drive-thru were like, I like your voice. And I'm like, the voice, okay. And so like had good grades in community college, made it back into Truman the very next semester, and was like communication major, but I'm also signing up for theater classes. So it was, it was a complete shift to, I want to do something with the voice, whether that's like radio. You can still have a personality there, as long as you're, being nice. And then or I guess for some people you don't have to be
You
nice.
don't even
but,
have to
like,
be
you know,
nice. That's true. Yeah.
yeah. And then there was, you know, the theater. Like, I had fun doing this in middle school and in high school. Why did I not try to pursue this in any way, shape, or form? And so and eventually communication and theater swapped. So I had a theater major, comm minor.
Do you think any of this joy that you find in that like utility is that, like, you know, that you also just enjoy doing this thing you have to do? Like, you have to create food at some point, whether you just pull it out of a package or whatnot.
Well, to me, like, I think part of the joy is not pulling something out of a package. I think we're also disconnected from our food in general, that, you know, cooking it, and especially cooking something like from our garden, for instance, you know, you just feel a lot more connected to your food. But there's also like, and maybe it's just kind of my weird OCD, but like this utility in like going into the fridge and just finding what needs to be used so it doesn't die. And then like, so there's that utility of sort of like using ingredients that need to be used so that you don't waste food. And then just the utility like of fueling your body in a mindful way.
Yeah.
And that, I think, so there's like the joy of like creating something really tasty, and that's like the creative part, but there's also the joy of like knowing that while creating something tasty, you've also, you know, avoided wasting food and like fueled your body in a mindful, like positive way. So I think
checked
that's
a
what
lot
I
of
mean.
boxes.
Yeah, for sure, when I think about like the utility of cooking. And then there's just also just sort of the organizational part of it that I just love, like the getting all the ingredients out onto the counter and like seeing all the raw ingredients and like transforming those one by one into, you know, the mise en place or whatever, and, you know, putting everything in its place and getting the whole recipe prepped before you start cooking. For me, I found that one, it brings joy, just the knife work and like prepping and measuring things out and kind of getting it all lined up in a neat little row. But also it helps, I think, with the efficiency of the cooking and like the end result, because you have everything ready at your fingertips. And like that's, I think, how you start to, you know, gain more skill and be able to cook more complex recipes, because you got everything ready to go, and it's just a matter of kind of adding it at the right time and, you know, doing the right thing with it. But it used to be, I would try to save time by starting a recipe and then prepping as things were cooking.
I'm pretty bad at that.
Yeah, but then like once it would always wind up at some point in the recipe where I felt like I was scrambling. Like, oh shit, I forgot that I needed to like chop this garlic. Like, let me do that right now. But like, it takes a few minutes to do, and a few minutes can kind of make or break you sometimes. Like, you could, so if I just like it, I mean, it's much more calming for me to just have everything done. You know, I think some people may be faster at like doing it the other way, but you know, for me, I've just kind of gotten to the point where I just look at the ingredient list, get it all out, prep it all how it needs to be prepped, and then go into the actual cooking of the recipe. So
sort of like your small joy was earlier. It's like a puzzle. You like dump the puzzle out onto your counter, you separate the edge pieces in the middle, or, you know, by color or whatever, and then you like get to building and get to cooking.
For sure. Yeah. And just like the alchemy of cooking is, I think, at the end of the day, what really like brings it home for me. It just like
fascinating
taking simple ingredients and they just become greater than the sum of their parts. And I don't cook anything crazy. It's all pretty simple type meals, but just that the idea of taking raw ingredients and turning them into food, you know, I don't know, there's something almost like magical about that. You know, it's like a transformation of into something that, like I said, is greater than the sum of its parts. And, you know, some of that is, I think, the love that you put into it as well.
on the one hand, you know, some people are like, oh, 50 Shades of Grey is fan fiction, and that's just they limit it at that. And I'm just like, okay, but 50 Shades of Grey is bad fan fiction. Don't hold me to that bar, besties. There's so much good content out there, and when people are like, I'm just like, shut up. You do not understand how large this umbrella is.
Yeah, I don't know,
Crazy.
like holding any sort of function or topic or, you know, grouping of things by their weakest link is like, or a, you know, a weak link is not always the best way to to look at them. I don't know. I feel like you can do that with anything,
It's
you
not.
know? I could do that with any subject, find the weakest link and say like, well, look at this weak link.
Well, and I was particularly nervous when you reached out to me. I was nervous to talk about fan fiction. And I think that was because of the stigma. I was like, oh God, if I talk about fan fiction, there's going to be somebody out there that's like, ooh, you like fan fiction? And I was going to be like, yeah, actually I do. Uh-huh. And then the more I thought about it, and you would check in, you'd be like, are you sure about your topic? Not in the like, are you sure
Right,
about your
right.
topic way, just like checking in. And every time I was just felt more vindicated. I was like, yes,
I am
we're going to
sure.
talk about this. I am so sure. And it's just that but the stigma too, I think, is it's a red flag because there's are you a Ted Lasso fan?
I don't I don't I don't know of.
It's a great show.
Okay.
I recommend it. But there's a scene, and it's basically this guy's talking about don't get judgmental, get curious. And I think a lot of people get really judgmental about fan fiction. And if you ask why that is, when you look at fan fiction sites, it's a huge space for othered people, for the gay community, for LGBTQ people. Like, there's so much representation happening. Also, it took off for young girls, and a lot of things for young girls get kind of laughed at and ridiculed. And this has happened across history. Like, the Beatles were considered a boy band until men were like,
I like this
okay,
now.
the Beatles. Yeah, but it was like a silly thing to like for a really long time. And I do think if you look at like why it is popular and who it's for
Mhm.
and the communities that have access to it, and then the people that kind of dismiss it, it's like, are you actually dismissing it because you understand what it is and you still don't like it? Or is this like a microaggression? You know, so it's like
Where is the
I try
dismissal
not to.
coming from?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like I try not to judge people too hard because like I get it and they might not know, but sometimes people will be like, "Eh," and I'll be like, okay, like sure,
I mean,
chill.
I feel like a lot of not liking a thing, not liking a topic or a subject of some kind generally comes from like falling prey to the stereotype of that subject, right? Like if we think about this, like you know why you're nervous about like bringing fan fiction is because there is this stereotype that exists, and like, you know, people might bring that up.
Yeah.
And, you know, from our end, that's okay if they do. We can just either ignore or maybe, you know, talk and confront or converse about that situation to learn a bit, which is one thing I always love about, you know, this like live kind of situation and setting. But also, I don't know, I like approaching the subjects with those like uh divisive, you know, stereotypings, because it lets you really like dive in, like, yes, those stereotypes exist because, you know, someone found a few of the things from the gay community and maybe the kink community and all of these things,
Oh
and they're
yeah.
like, ooh, no, the devil, or ooh, no, I don't like that, not vanilla enough for me.
Yes.
And so, you know, now this is bad because it is not what, you know, X person didn't
Well,
enjoy.
and that's the thing is I told someone recently that I loved fan fiction, and they were like, "Isn't that porn?" And I was like, "Some of it."
There, I mean, it exists in
It
there.
exists, and you can like there. But if you go on AO3, and this is part of why I'm a huge AO3 stan is it's the easiest site to navigate. It has one of the best search engines, point blank period. So if you go to the site, you can filter, first of all, just by fandom. If whatever you're into, what show are you watching right now?
Oh, what show am I watching? Hunter x Hunter.
Okay, you could there's a Hunter x Hunter for fan fiction.
Oh yeah.
For sure, you
Oh
can
yeah.
go there. And then further from that, there's G through like E rated. So if you're like, I know what I want and I want like something wholesome, you can sort by G. There's not going to be a booty in sight. You know, like I've read Mandalorian fan fiction where everybody was a kindergartner,
Very
like the
cute.
kindergarten version of themselves. It was so adorable and sweet. And for people to be like, isn't fan fiction porn? It's like you're missing a huge chunk here. Like, of course it exists, and also there's some of it's really good. By the way,
No, I mean
there's
absolutely.
really great fan fiction. There's really bad fan fiction, and if you belittle it all to its lowest common denominator, it's like, sure that exists, but like, okay.
And I was looking for a way to stay fit, so I was already going to the gym. And then I had these friends that were really into weightlifting, and I was too afraid to go with them because I was like almost embarrassed that I didn't know how to weightlift.
It's a different level than what you were doing.
Yes. So I just started doing it myself. I was like, I just want to do it. So I started doing the like machines before I went to free weights, and I did the machines for like probably like a solid like 4 or 5 months, most of my first semester of college. And then I eventually like just wandered into the weight room, and it genuinely became an addiction. I just couldn't stop. I was going twice a day for like all of my freshman year, but I also didn't have a job. So that was my new job.
Well, you're spending your time, yeah.
And then when I left ASU and I went to Missouri State, I came as a theater major. And so I just started taking dance classes again. And I accumulated enough dance classes to get a second degree in dance. I just like didn't want to pay for the extra degree. But that was like the reinvigorating of that passion was like I had lost it over that year, and then it came back to me. And I was taking 2 every semester for almost all 4 years. But I had become addicted to weightlifting, so I was also doing that.
Yeah, I have had, I don't know, I didn't really get into even like being physically active until I was in college, because I had like a high metabolism as a kid, and so once I started like losing my baby fat, I was just fine with that, and it never really occurred to me to like want to do more. And it wasn't even until like I moved to the city of Chicago where I started like getting into the gym and going weightlifting, and then like very addicting very quickly, like every day in between work, or like, oh, if I have an hour before work, let's go spend it because I can use these machines. And it's like the active use of those machines is like very what is satisfying. Like when it works just right, you're like, yes, this is all going well. It feels good. So do you think it is like the use of the gym, or is it like if you had, or like the use of the equipment that you're very, very into? Like if you had a machine like that at home, do you think you would do it more often at home, or do you think you like going to the gym?
I truly think that for me, the gym itself, like the place, is important. I think if I had like, well, we went kind of through this during COVID, because I did not go to the gym for like 1.5 years, and I severely struggled. Like I had very little motivation, and I found like even though I had those weights that you had gotten for me, and I had those available to me, that it was really a struggle to get me down there and like to actually do the workouts with it. It just like the space didn't have the energy that I like crave
No,
when I'm going to work out.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I think that like even doing it in the backyard where there's like a little bit light, it isn't the same like energy. The air in the gym is kind of buzzing with like the general energy you need to keep going. I think is everyone else is kind of on the same wavelength in that space.
It's so much less of like the equipment that I am using and much more the space that I am in. And like, I think the mutual agreement between like everyone in the gym that like we're all doing our own thing together collectively, and we all have the same or similar goals in mind when we're in there. I think like that collective hive energy, it motivates you in a way that like I don't have internally myself. Because there are people that do love like working out at home and hate being in the gym.
Definitely.
And I am not one of those people.
Yeah.
I need that energy.
Gives you a little bit extra boost.
Mm-hmm. I also like there's a ritual to it. Like I do the same ritual when I'm getting ready to leave to go to the gym every day, and it's like, oh, like I eat specifically with the fact that I'm going to the gym in mind, and I eat in a certain time frame. So I usually like make my food and eat it, and then I go change and get ready, and then I grab my energy drink and I grab my bag. Like, it's very simple things, but
It's just a ritual.
They all combine into this ritual where I'm getting myself in the headspace to go. And once I'm there, it's just like a meditative experience. Like I'm never focused on anything outside of what I'm doing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. The gym is it cultivates that for me as well, that meditative experience, just because you get like locked in to your own little zone. You have your music going because it's so awkward to be in a gym without your music going.
Yeah, they started blasting EDM today, and it was so loud that I had my headphones on max, and I could still hear it. And I said, I don't know what you're doing, Export, but this is not it today.
The vibe is being crushed, Export.
Yes.
So, back on topic of hand, I have been driving a motorcycle since last fall, but it has always been a lifelong dream of mine to actually get one, and my significant other was able to help with that. Still paying him back on that, even if he's floating about over here. He tries to joke that it's a gift, but no, I can't accept that as a gift. He's getting paid back for it.
Right.
Actually, having that freedom of a motorcycle has been one key aspect that's brought a lot of joy.
Yeah, okay, so you got that last fall, you said.
Yep. Yeah, it didn't work through winter. So
I was gonna say, do you live in a place where like winter motorcycling is a possibility?
It is, but the issue is the previous owners didn't take care of it.
Oh.
So we fought through the winter out in the parking lot before I even got a garage in like the spring. I found somebody who had one. We worked on that thing in freezing temps, cold weather, changing the oil, just trying to get it started, and it just wouldn't. Ended up having to take it up to a mechanic in a blizzard.
Oh my goodness. So did you learn all the stuff that you know about motorcycles after you got this motorcycle, or have you been like studying up and like learning about them for like longer?
For a lot longer. My passion for motorcycles actually came from, I had to have been like 7 or 8. And my dad bought this junker of a bike.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't start, and like me and my dad didn't do hardly anything growing up as a kid. So when he brought home this junker, he actually asked for my help on trying to repair it. We painted it, and I remember like we cut open like one of those Mountain Dew 24 box cases.
Yeah.
And made decals out of the cardboard and painted the motorcycle. We never got that thing to start, and it had the ugliest paint job you could imagine. And we ended up selling it when we moved, but it kind of got a chuckle out of me because a few years I remember seeing someone driving that motorcycle in town with the ugliest paint job. I would recognize that thing from a mile away.
Same paint job where the decals still like on it? The cardboard decals? That's incredible.
They didn't replace them. They fixed it and were driving it through town.
That is amazing.
Me and Dad were never able to get it up and running, but somehow
they got it up and running, and
they did.
That's super funny. I love that. So So it's just always been, I guess, in the back of your mind. You learned a little bit then when you were like, you said 7 or 8, when you were learning how to kind of repair that with your dad. And you've wanted one since then. You were finally able to get one last fall. That's incredible. What kind of bike do you have?
It's a cruiser style Yamaha Roadster. It kind of got a chuckle out of me because whenever I first got it, I had my license, but I didn't have a license plate on it. But I still wanted to drive it around the block, right? Just to see whenever I got back home, because I was mortified of this thing. I couldn't even take it on the highway. The people we bought it from actually delivered it for us, and we just paid them for the fuel cost.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And me being me, I wanted to drive it around the block because I'm stubborn, and I wanted to see how it handled. So when I drove it around the block, I was wobbling back and forth because I didn't have the knowledge on that, and got pulled over by a cop. And it got a chuckle out of me because he mentioned just like, why are you driving something so big for being such a new rider? And I just mentioned it's like, that's all they had.
That's what they had. Where do you think that all of this sort of stems from? What about it do you love so much?
That's a good question. So I can talk about soil health and soil microbiology for days, and it relates so closely to having healthy plants and healthy animals, regardless of if you're gonna consume the animals or not, just to be a steward of animals on a piece of land. But the reason I chose growing food is because that's something that I find is very rewarding for me. And so to answer your question, where it stems from, for me, I thought about this a little bit, thinking about the topic in our interview, and I think it's just so rewarding when you grow something and you harvest it. But it's also hard. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done.
It is, yes.
Yeah. I always tell people if I didn't like it so much, I wouldn't do it, because it's fucking, it feels impossible sometimes to be good at it. And it's really not. It's just a lot of work. I mean, it's a ton of work, but that's also what I like about it, because when you are successful, it feels so good. So my stepdad always says, he's a farmer, and he says, you have to be all these things if you want to be a farmer or a good gardener. And this is at any scale, mostly kind of thinking about like small to mid scale, but even like large scale ag, it's similar concepts. You have to be a botanist, you have to be a meteorologist because you have to follow the weather, an entomologist because you're dealing with bugs, a virologist because you have plant pathology, you have to be a mechanic to a certain degree, working on equipment. So all of these disciplines, you have to know at least a little bit about all of them, or a lot. And I think that's part of what makes it so hard. And then of course you're dealing with something that we don't understand that much, and we're people trying to understand plants. And so yeah, I think that's what really interests me, is the difficulty level.
Yeah, it's also interesting that you say that, because like much like myself, I feel like fall pretty prone to like ADD, ADHD, and the symptoms that it kind of entails with that. And something like this sort of lifestyle that requires a sort of base understanding of a skew of different subjects might be beneficial to that, might like kind of help abate the symptoms, because you have so many different things to focus on, right? Like, oh, well, today is a mechanic's day because I have to fix this piece of machinery, and today is, now for the next hour I have to deal with the weather and like what's going to be going on, and you get to like focus on so many different maybe subjects. It might actually be pretty beneficial to that. It's just intriguing. I find myself thinking a lot about what creates a sort of a successful dealing with, I don't know, some more severe ADHD moments.
Yeah, I would agree. I have quite a few obsessive tendencies, and yeah, I think it helps. I actually could probably use to do some more meditation and stuff to calm the mind, but I don't calm it in the same way I used to with drugs and alcohol. And so I feel like since I stopped using, my mind is like a lot more active, and I like I guess part of what I used to use for was like to calm it down.
Mm-hmm.
And so the meditation helps with that. But yeah, I agree. Like subjects like that gives you a lot of different avenues to pursue. And so it's nice to have the opportunity to do that. And I think it's also primal. It's like for me, it's a primal thing to grow food. It's a necessity. We all need it, and it's like one of those things where, yeah, I'm not inherently good at anything. Like I have to try real hard, but it makes me feel good when I am successful. Like it makes me feel like, oh, maybe maybe I'm, at least decent at this if I can like grow a tomato or like pick a peach.
Okay, well, if I can grow a tomato, maybe I'm decent at this, because like comparatively the things like you're right, you have to put in a lot of work. It's a ton of work and like understanding of what the situation, like what's occurring, giving it the time that it requires, giving it the like physical labor that it requires. Even just like last year I attempted to garden in our little plot back in the backyard, and I maybe made out the tomatoes succeeded and some potatoes succeeded, and I felt great when I had a bowl of potatoes and I was like, look what I have done with my whole summer. But like how much you told Darren and I one time about how much food you had, like how much fruit you had picked off of the trees. How much fruit had you picked?
Yeah. I think it was peaches last year. It was like 500 pounds or something.
500 pounds. It's not
good.
a tomato. that is
a
quarter ton of peach.
Yeah, it's true, but the but it also then it comes back to like that's what I do though.
Yeah.
Like if I was to do something that you do, like try
That's
to
true.
hook up some AV equipment or something, and I did it, I would be like, "Yay!" And you'd be like, "That's nothing."
I guess that holds true. I just I don't know. I think that the amount of food that you talk about having like harvested and grown and like been a part of like a steward of its growth over the time, like that we do our like family game nights that we've been doing those, that like it's a ton. That's a lot of food, like tons of food, which is incredible. Like not only do you love doing this thing, but you do it at a level that goes to feed other people, right? Because you certainly didn't eat 500 pounds of peaches.
There are over 10 U-Haul boxes taped shut in piles of U-Haul boxes full of books that I, at this point, only have vague notions of what books they are. I know that they're books that I collected or inherited, but beyond that, could be anything in there. It's wild. So excited. I'm sorry, I don't know that we quite got to the selection or the question.
No,
sorry.
it was just I think it was. Do you think any of that stems from a joy of like collecting specifically?
Oh,
like sharing
yes,
your
okay.
collection, or is it about sharing this experience? Because you like avidly collect these things. I feel it's less than.
No, you are absolutely right. I love the sharing of the media, but like I do also find a lesser but existent amount of joy in just standing and looking at it. There are few things in the world more beautiful than a shelf full of hardcover books.
Especially if you know that they're all yours.
They are your hardcover books that you personally selected and purchased and brought back with you. I think it comes predominantly from upbringing. I think I get my love of collecting and also sharing media from my father. Just about every type of media, with the exception of role-playing games and podcasts. He was the first and usually greatest influence, because he would read books to me. He would show me. We would have movie nights. We would back-to-back movie nights. We would like consume content. We didn't do a ton of TV, but I just didn't really enjoy the the TV that he liked to show my sister. It's a lot of Joss Whedon and 90s serialized. It wasn't.
Not a
I
fan
wasn't
of the
here
Joss
for it.
Whedon.
Not a huge. I mean, I love Firefly. Firefly's wonderful. The rest of it is a product of its time.
Lots of 90s media is for sure.
But we had expansive collections of most media. He had many CDs, both that he had purchased and that he had, in the early days of the internet, gone and found MP3s and acquired them and burned them onto CDs. We had like 6 volumes of Disney music that he had just been like, I'm gonna get some Disney music and put it on this CD, and now it's Disney Volume 2.
It's the songs that you want.
And there's it was what we listened to in the car. We had that, and we had Beatles, and we had Cake, and we had what is his name? The Banana Pancakes.
Oh, Jack
What is it?
Johnson.
Jack Johnson, yes. And the Shrek soundtrack.
And the Shrek soundtrack. You got to share that with everyone you can.
Yeah.
You can't not experience the joy in sharing Shrek.
I mean, here's the thing, is that I feel like I don't have to share Shrek because everyone already knows.
Experienced Shrek, and if you haven't,
everyone's heard the word, and the word is
word of Shrek.
But he had these huge collections. We had tubs on tubs of VHS that slowly evolved into DVDs, and we had, the whole upstairs was bookshelves, either freestanding or like built into things, and they were all full of books, and there were stacks of books on the floor sometimes. And at some point, I don't actually remember when I started gathering books, because like for a long time in grade school, I was very much a library book kid, only from the library. My mom was very proud of me. But at some point in like middle or early high school, I decided that I actually wanted to start having them. And then my collection grew in college. And then after college, I actually started making money, and there was just no going back from that. I got books. I was making sort of adult money, and there was a half-price books on the way home from work. The perfect storm to just go in there and be like, I had a great day, and drop $250 on books, and not even think a moment about it.
A little loop there, getting stuck and buying more books. I'm glad that I'm able to sort of leech off of everyone else's collections of things in order to satiate my habits. It's fantastic.
Well, here's the thing. That's what it's there for. It's I call it a library for a reason. It's, just don't destroy it and bring it back, and it's fine. Like, even if you have to mail it to me, like, I'm not good. If I'm recommending it to you, I've probably already read it. So go nuts.
It's very interesting when you brought up very early on the definition of joy. I think that at no point, I don't know, in this process, did I look up the definition of joy, right?
I sort of saw that on your face when you were just like,
that's really neat.
There.
No, I mean, I was like enjoying it because like that, I mean, while not using the literal definition at any point, I have been looking for, that vibe, that feeling, like what brings you that sense of joy. And I want to try to figure out, it's interesting because like, I think everyone, when I first ask them to come on, they're like, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. They come up with a topic, and then I ask for their small joy, and 2 out of the 3 times so far, it has been, I would say, related to your overall joy, the thing that we're going to be speaking about in this moment. And like, it's funny because like you find that big joy when you're thinking about it, for sure. And then when you think back, it's like all these little moments of reaching that like big joy kind of come out throughout the day.
Well, certainly, yeah. You look at the definition, and then you look back at your life, and you look for those moments, and you're like, what's the thread? What's the thread that ties these moments together? And then once you've identified that, you see it everywhere. It's, the whole orientation of your life is sort of molded around how to experience these experiences the most often.